1991. Her specialty, I would never want this, but it's high conflict family law litigation. And there are even articles under her name such as 4 tips for hiring a divorce lawyer. She also is well schooled in the arts of politics, having served 2 terms as a councillor on Kingsville Council, and in 2010 was a deputy mayor on the same council for 4 years. She's also been elected as a bencher, governing body of the Law Society of Ontario, is a past president of St. Leonard's House, and a volunteer on the board of directors with the Southwest Ontario Gleaners. She currently has an office on Walker Road in Walkerville, should you be desiring of her legal services. So, without further ado, I, in high confidence, pass the mic to Tamara Stomp.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. She's set us up in this wonderful location here at the Windsor Family Credit Union Center. The problem is we don't have a regular system, so we'll be passing the mic tonight. And also, I don't have a podium, so you'll see me get up and walk around as if I want to leave, but I'm going to stay the whole time. So our first order of business is to acknowledge that we're gathered here in this space in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, which sits on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. We require that we all show each other respect while allowing people to speak freely. There is no room in this discussion for bigotry or hate of any kind. While freedom of speech is essential for a democratic society, it is not a shield for unabashed bigotry to hide behind. Any hateful rhetoric that targets someone based on their class position, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender expression, religious affiliation, or physical or mental disability will not be tolerated. Your host this evening is the Windsor chapter of the Canadian Federation of University of Windsor, and we thank them for their public service in this exercise of democracy. Welcome to our audience members. We are here to listen to candidates that need your vote to win the mayor's chair. So please give them your attention. Turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate, always a joy. And if you get a call, please answer it outside the room. Welcome also to our candidates. They have been randomly seated. They will be randomly and sometimes sequentially chosen to answer a series of 4 questions that have been provided in advance, so no one is surprised of the content of our discussion tonight. Each will have 3 minutes to present on each question. The time will be strictly enforced, and I'm advised that it will be strict. So do not be surprised if you're cut off mid-sentence. I'm sure you'll do your best. We intend every candidate to have an equal opportunity, and after the questions, we hope to have questions from the audience. Each candidate will have an opportunity to wrap up. If you have a question, you can go over to the table to the lady with the pink roses, and she will write it out, and then we'll make sure that we're just asking one question one time. And you might find that your question may overlap with what we are going to be asking already. So first, we're going to start with an opening statement of 4 minutes from each candidate, and I'd like to start at the far right with Mr. Hensel and pass the mic along. And I've received permission from each of them to not use the word Mr. tonight, but by first names. So I'll go back and forth when I forget that, all right? Apologize. So ready, set, go. Tom?
I'm Tom Hensel. I'm running for mayor.
Does
Yeah. Check 1, 2.
And so to turn it on, push that again. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm Tom Hensel. I'm running for mayor, and the reason why I'm running is I'm just an ordinary citizen that decided that it was time to step up to the plate and see if I could contribute something to some of the issues that are important to many of us here in Windsor. Primarily, my platform consists of a call to appoint an independent auditor general so that we can get down to saving some money with regard to expenditures that may be unnecessary, like microphones. Also, I'd like to address the increasing poverty that a lot of people here in our city are burdened with. There's a lot of issues that are sort of wrapped up in that as well, including addiction and mental health issues and affordable housing. And finally, I really am passionate about getting our roads and sidewalks repaired so that we can drive to work and school without rattling our teeth. And I'd also like to see a little bit more aggressive approach to dealing with some of the flooding issues that we have. The city does have the sewer master plan, of course, and there's been some progress on that, but I think we really need to make a much more focused effort to do what we can a lot faster. And so those are the three main components, of course, that I'll be focusing on as I'm campaigning. I hope that on October 22nd, you'll be prepared to make your decision, and in the meantime, talk to your friends and neighbors about what's important to you, and make sure you get out there and meet the candidates when you have that opportunity. And I look forward to seeing you at your front door. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matt Marchand, and I want to be your next mayor. Our city is divided. Our downtown is in bad shape. Our roads need fixing. Our basements are flooding, our incomes are falling, and Windsor leads the nation in many of the poverty measures. In short, the status quo is not working. The status quo is the biggest risk to our community. Today, after consultation with the community, I announced my economic plan to align community needs with spending priorities. No more streetcars, no more focusing on parking garages or legacy projects. We will invest $40 million over 10 years to fund our Windsor 2022 strategy. It's our plan to revitalize our downtown, make our streets safer, improve our business, and take care of our most vulnerable. It is the only comprehensive plan in this campaign. It's 12 pages long, here's the cover sheet, with over 50 recommendations. And you can see it on votemarchand.com. And this strategy was built on extensive consultation, but it's also an invitation for you, the community, to participate. Have a look at it, give us your feedback, because by working together, we can be successful. The mayor's office has to take a leadership role in solving what's going on downtown. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Maintaining the status quo at City Hall means we're falling behind. That's what's been happening. Whether it's roads, flooded basements, crime, and homeless, we are always behind the curve. We react. We're not proactive. And Windsor needs a mayor who can bring the community together to get results. And more importantly, when you're mayor for everyone. It's time for transparency and accountability and an auditor general. It's time for action. I'm the person to provide that action. I'm uniquely qualified to take action and get results. I've seen firsthand how Detroit Mayor Dennis Archer took on the challenges of revitalizing Detroit. And before we released our document, we went over and visited Dennis Archer to talk about our plan. We got his feedback, because he's one of the best at this. We want to make sure that Mayor Dennis Archer saw this and give us his feedback. We have the resources, the people, and know-how, and all that's missing is the right leadership to make it work. My work as president and CEO of the Windsor Essex Chamber for the past 6 years means I understand business. My 12 years in the mayor's office with Mayor Mike Hurst means I understand the community. I see unlimited potential. However, we need new leadership, the right leadership, to unleash our community's potential. For example, I will appoint an auditor general within 100 days of taking office. We will make the community more livable by establishing a $50 million community livability fund over 10 years to make our community safer, cleaner, more livable, and attract high-paying jobs. We will improve our downtown using our Windsor 2022 strategy. And we'll get aggressive to fix our flooded basements by speeding up the 10-year proposed sewer improvement to 6 years, because our folks in Riverside need results quicker. However, I need your help to get this done. On October 22nd, please vote Matt Marchand for mayor, Marchand for action, Marchand for transparency, Marchand for accountability. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Frank Dyck. I want to be your next mayor. By focusing on the downtown area, I want to keep the hospitals where they are and build them 10, 20 stories high instead of just 6 stories high, 7 stories high, whatever they are right now. By improving the bus systems to run on vegetable oil and alcohol instead of diesel and gasoline with the taxis, commercial vehicles, any vehicle that is a high polluter used every day needs to run on vegetable oil and alcohol. And by eliminating the green bin and increasing the red and blue bin, there's a lot of waste that will not go to the landfill anymore. It'll go to the recycling plant. And what else? Our water system needs to be, most of the time I drink bottled water because I can't drink tap water. The water needs to be cleaned up. It needs hydrogen peroxide instead of chlorine in it. Hydrogen peroxide is a green chlorine. You can see it in grocery stores, or President's Choice has green bleach, which is hydrogen peroxide. It's actually good for you. It's good for the environment. And a vote for me will clean up Windsor to make it the cleanest city in all of Canada. So vote for me on October 22nd. Thank you.
Well, thank you to the CFUW for holding this event at the WFCU tonight. Appreciate that. And thank you all for being here and making the time to be here. It's been truly my honor over the last 4 years to serve as the mayor of the city of Windsor. And I care deeply about my city, I care deeply about my community, and I care about our collective success. Over the past 4 years, we've had much success. And you've seen an incredible transformation in the city of Windsor. And I've been very proud to have led the team at City Council who's delivered this success for you. Today, we enjoy an unemployment rate at about 6.6%. When I took office, the unemployment rate in the city was just almost 10%. Property prices, as you know, most people's largest investment, have risen dramatically. Building permits have increased by 70% in 4 years to $360 million. We continue to invest record amounts in our roads and sewers. In fact, we've spent over $275 million over the past 4 years. And this is up 40% from what was being spent during the days of neglect back in the 1990s. Today, our economy is much stronger than it was 4 years ago, with $1 billion investment by our largest employer and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment by other businesses in our community, creating good paying jobs in the city of Windsor. Our debt is down 25% from 4 years ago. Our reserves are up to $180 million. And Standard & Poor's, our outside bond rating agency, they have given us a solid AA rating, acknowledging strong financial management. And we've done all this, all of these investments in parks, playgrounds, libraries, fire halls, all of the things that we've done, record investments in roads and sewers, and we have held the line on taxes, increasing taxes in the city of Windsor by only 2.4% over 4 years, the lowest increase of any city in the province of Ontario. And so when I look to the future for this community, I think you have a clear choice. This election presents a clear choice to either keep Windsor moving forward or to go back to the days where there was mismanagement, high taxes, and high debt in the city of Windsor. And contrary to what you've heard, I'm the only candidate with a detailed plan, a proven plan with proven results for you here tonight. And my plan has 5 pillars. My plan includes record investments in our roads and sewers and continuing that record investment, including the $89 million sewer plan that I brought forward under our sewer master plan for implementation in Riverside and East Riverside. To continue to diversify our economy, to attract a variety of employers to our city so that we all have more opportunity, continuing to hold the line on taxes. I make no bones about that. You know my record over the last 12 years. What you've seen me do over the last 12 years, I'll continue to do moving forward. There's no guessing, there's no surprise with me. You know how I act on your behalf. And I want you to keep the majority of your money in your own pocket. I want to continue improving our quality of life and continue to make this city attractive for the people who live here and for people who are looking at investing in our community. And most of all, or equally importantly, public safety. I spent 15 years as a member of the Windsor Police Auxiliary, and I appreciate public safety. And I know we have some problems downtown, and I know there are probably 200 people who are causing those problems. But I also know in my city there are 218,000 people. And my goal is to make sure that 217,800 of you, when you put your head on the pillow at night, that you know police resources are there, that we're resourcing those things appropriately and effectively to keep you safe. And that's my commitment to you. So you do have a clear choice. Do you want to go back to the days when we had the highest debt, the highest tax increases in the province of Ontario? Or do you want to continue on the course that has been proven, that has delivered for this community over the last 12 years, and keep moving Windsor forward? Thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. This is Ernie Lamont. I'm the gentleman who introduced casino gambling to Windsor in '91, and now the city receives $24 million a year in revenue from tolls that come over from Michigan. They also get money from the OLG plus taxes. Plus, I've created 5,000 jobs already. My goal is to replace Amazon with 50,000 jobs over 4 years. The way I'm going to do this is I plan to introduce a second casino, a mega casino, an aquarium, an amusement park like Cedar Point look-alike, a checker flag raceway, and an amphitheater like they do at in the States. They have an amphitheater. And what I want to do is put all this at the airport. And this will create 15,000 jobs. Now, my other one is, we talk about roads and sewers. Well, the only way we're going to really actually pay for this immediately is to put tolls on every entrance into the city of Windsor at $1 each way. That would probably maybe about $100,000 a day coming into the city to start construction immediately, not waiting till years from now. My other goal is Ford Motor Company and Chrysler pay big taxes in the city of Windsor. The way I see it, the Ford workers who continue, or all taxpayers in Windsor that contribute, that want to lease a new Ford or Chrysler vehicle over 3 years, I would like to give back $200 rebate on their taxes over a period of a 3-year lease. And the money basically comes from Ford paying taxes and Chrysler paying taxes in Windsor. So the money is not coming out of the finance department at the city of Windsor. When I looked at downtown, what's going on right now with all the crime, in '91 when the casino was introduced, there was 25 policemen hired from the casino. And now they hired another 12 policemen, and now they're going to hire another 12. To me, 50 policemen, we don't need 50 policemen downtown Windsor. We have 450 police officers. I find that we should be taking them out of the office and putting them on the street. Now, for us to put $5 million more just to pay for police downtown, to me is ludicrous. And I don't really feel that the taxpayers want to pay this extra money for protection downtown. Also, the homeless people. Nobody should be homeless in the city of Windsor. The taxpayers of Windsor are paying out thousands and thousands of dollars to people on welfare, mother's allowance, social assistance. I say to the people of Windsor, we should start to move those people out to the greenhouses in Leamington and replace them with the people from Mexico and other countries that are coming in to do the jobs where we have the people here, right here in Windsor. And the money we save, that could go towards Transit Windsor to bring those people out to Leamington for free. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those opening statements. Now we're ready for the questions. Question number 1, Matt, would you like to start? And then we'll go to your right. The question is, the city of Windsor is currently gripped by an opioid and crystal meth crisis, leading to record homelessness and rising crime. How will you address and significantly reduce this problem in downtown Windsor?
Well, thank you for the question. And our campaign did a lot of research on this. We came up with the Windsor 2022 vision, which contains over 50 recommendations. And we looked at best practices, not just across Ontario, but across the US and Canada. In Medicine Hat, for example, they basically eliminated homelessness. In San Diego, they did the same thing. And we look at other communities across Ontario. It's all in our Vision 2022 plan. Let me give you a couple of ideas to start. First, we're going to have transitional storage lockers. One of the problems with homeless people is they have no place to push their stuff. You see them pushing shopping carts around. We give them transitional storage lockers where they can put their belongings. Next, we could have what's called Wheels of Change, where they can go and do a day's work for a living wage, put them back to work. This is work in other communities across North America. That's very important. It gives a place to put their stuff, and it gives them a job, because the best way to get off homelessness is to have a job and have work experience. That can transition them into that. Secondly, on the crystal meth, and crystal meth is actually a bigger problem than opioid right now. It's huge. So what we have to do is have a safe spot for those, collaborate with our health units across the region. That to me is an excellent way to go. Did you know that the number of Canadians impacted by Canadian mental health is 23%, yet our funding is only 7%. And that's a big issue for us as well. Also on the police side, we're talking about deploying more foot patrols in our downtown. We put that out last week. We're also going to engage the government of Ontario. The provincial weapons unit wants to deploy more officers down in here. We have a gun problem here. We have to solve that. We want a provincial gun unit using provincial resources down here in Windsor as well to help solve that problem as well. So we've got to come at it from multiple angles. We've got to deal with the homeless. We've got to deal with the opioid problem. And we've got to deal with the crime problem. We have to be proactive on it. As the mayor of Medicine has said, it's cheaper to deal with the homeless problem on the front end than it is trying to arrest people on the back end. Yeah, I heard somebody, yeah. Because that's the way you get it done. You can surveil the city, you can take pictures of crimes happening. What does that solve? Doesn't solve much. We want to be proactive, and the problem over the last few years is we're always being reactive. We want to be proactive. Get these folks off the street, get them a job, get cheaper, and get it done with humanity. And if there's problems with those guys, we're going to have more police, both on foot patrols and with our provincial weapons unit down here in Windsor.
Okay, now about this opioid and crystal meth thing, they actually want, if you're going to help them, they have to want to have help. So the only way to do that is to educate them. And that can be done right at the beginning when they're arrested or right when they're homeless. The police need to, by increasing the police force downtown, the police need to bring them right to the hospital, to the third floor, to the psych ward, I guess, because they can't take care of themselves. Or they need to be brought to, what do you call that place again? Brentwood. Yeah, they need to be brought to Brentwood where they can get help. And from there, they need the public guardian and trustee to take care of them if they can't take care of their own finances. They need someone to do the finances for them. And then from there, they need to be put into affordable housing or a rest home or something like that, some place where they can live besides the street. And like crystal meth, opioid addiction, it's just rampant out in this city. We need to help them, and the only way to help them is to educate them. So thank you very much.
Well, homelessness is a very complex issue, as most of you know, and it isn't solely related to the continental drug epidemic that is facing every city in North America. There are homeless people that they experience homelessness because of mental health issues. Some are experiencing homelessness as much as we've all benefited with the rise in our home prices. You have some who on the far end are suffering and experiencing homelessness because of the prosperity that the city is seeing as a whole in the value of home prices, and they're being evicted by landlords. And so the solutions are complex because not all of the solutions fall within the jurisdiction of the municipality. As you can appreciate, if you are suffering from addiction, if you are suffering from a mental health condition, those services are provided by the province. And unfortunately, if we pick someone up in an alley today who is doing crystal meth or taking opioids, it can be 6 to 8 weeks before they can get into treatment in the city of Windsor. And that is not dissimilar to what we're seeing in other cities across the province of Ontario. And so the situation is very complex, but we have a multifaceted approach. And so we have hired additional police officers to deal with the situation that we're seeing on the street. We have to have law and order. We cannot let chaos and disorder take over our downtown or other parts of the city. We won't let that happen. And so 5 years ago, we had 473 police officers in the city of Windsor. Today, we have 428. And the chief made that strategic decision to lower the number of officers because the crime rate was actually falling. Now we see the crime rate going up at an alarming rate. And so the chief has asked for additional resources. I have folks from around the city in my office, including yesterday, dealing with solutions on how we can move forward. Folks from cross-section of the community, shelters, hospitals, police, mental health, addiction, social services, to identify ways to reduce the time it takes to get treatment locally. We have a plan. We have a 10-year housing and homelessness plan. And the goal is to provide housing first to people who are homeless. And so what are the facts? Last year, we provided housing to 250 people in the city of Windsor who were homeless. The plan is working. My plan involves hiring 24 new police officers, implementing digital neighborhood watch, adding 8 additional police officers from the existing complement to patrol on foot in the downtown core, working to send criminals who are coming here. We're seeing this, folks. Criminals who are coming to the city of Windsor who are wanted in other jurisdictions who are coming here to commit crime. And we want to send those folks back, if they're on warrant in another jurisdiction, send them back to the jurisdiction they came from so they do not continue to commit crime in the city of Windsor. Adding security cameras to the downtown for which police would have immediate and timely access, upgrading to the next generation of 911. And let me skip a bunch and just say, I put under my public safety policy the desire and the approval of City Council, not the desire, the approval, to create 150 affordable housing units on Meadowbrook to try and accelerate the plan. The only City Council in 30 years to do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, this problem could be solved tomorrow. When you look at the $24 million the city gets from that casino alone, and the $180,000 a month Local 44 get from union dues from the casino workers, I say to Local 44, step up to the plate, give half of that union dues back, and the city of Windsor maybe take half the $24 million, and let's take care of the problem tomorrow. The mayor's office can do this, and council, if they really want to do it, okay? Put the money into Transit Windsor, move all these people that are laying around the streets that don't have jobs right now, and send them out to Leamington. I know Mucci Farms in Leamington would hire them immediately. They have buses in Leamington that would come to Windsor to bring the workers out there. The big problem is in Windsor with that we have all these people going to the mission, getting free meals, getting the whole social assistance, all these different people that are going to all these centers to get canned food and all that stuff. If they got off their ass and went to work like they should be, then we would have a better city. We don't need to hire another 24 Windsor Place at $2.4 million, $100,000 an officer. We got 25 that are around the casino that you don't see. Take those 25 police officers and put them downtown, because the casino doesn't need any protection. They got their own security. That saves the taxpayers a lot of money. Take that money right now and go give it to Transit Windsor and put out a bulletin in the Windsor Star like they do a lot, and all the radio stations and TV stations, and tell the people that are on the street that we'll take care of you, we'll get you jobs. Look at the Windsor Arena, for example. The Windsor Arena is sitting there empty. It's got washrooms, it's got showers, it's got a kitchen. Let's put the homeless people in there if they want to work. The city of Windsor has a lot of empty buildings where they could renovate them right away. There's contractors out there that are willing to come forward, do the work, and get a tax write-off from the city to help the homeless. That's all we have to do is go to them. And really, be honest with you, I'm glad I brought the casino to Windsor, and I would love to bring another casino to hire 15,000 jobs and bring another $24 million to the city each year. And can you imagine another casino in Windsor? A boom for the city of Windsor. It would be a housing boom around the new mega hospital. The taxes from that new mega hospital, the mega casino, could go towards the hospital. So we could get that started now. Because you know, Windsor, that hospital will be maybe 2,100. We need to do it now.
We've been hearing an awful lot about these issues lately, and I think the impression is that, you know, we're in an escalating situation where things are kind of getting out of hand. We're seeing increasing numbers of people on the streets and situations involving violence and drugs. And I think the root symptom of all of that is poverty. I think, you know, once you've put yourself in a position where you're addicted to drugs, then that's going to fuel your need, and you're going to do whatever you're going to do in order to get your supply. And if you've lost your shelter, that's not a priority when you're an addict. The drug is. And I think we need to kind of step back and realize that this is really a monster that we need to tame quickly. I'm in agreement with some of the things that the mayor suggested with regard to integrating social services and the police department and other agencies to tackle it in an all-hands-on approach. But I think we need to be much more aggressive, and we can't wait any longer. People are dying out there on the streets. Winter is coming. We had situations last year where there was a concern that perhaps some people would have been turned away from a shelter during extreme temperatures. That is totally unacceptable. Whatever the miscommunication was at the time, we need to understand that these are human beings that live in our community that deserve our compassion, our assistance, and our help. And we need to do whatever we can in order to get that help to them. At the same time, I think the investment that we make in poverty reduction has to be really focused on meeting the needs of people who are most at risk. Right now, 1 in 4 children in our communities are suffering from poverty, living under the poverty level. And we need to take measures to make sure that that generation isn't the generation that creates a situation where we repeat this cycle again in the future. So I think we just need to really focus our efforts and do it in a way that is much more proactive and do it quickly. I don't think we've got much time left on the clock. We're already seeing indications that this situation is way beyond what we're prepared to deal with. It's going to require additional resources, and I think we owe it to our fellow citizens and neighbors to make that commitment, and I'm prepared to do that.
Thank you. Now for question number 2, and we'll start with Frank. Throughout Windsor, there have been record rainfall levels and subsequent flooding, particularly during the past 2 years and counting. What are your solutions to proactively mitigate this environmental and costly threat to home and business owners?
Okay, my solution is to have new roads and new sewers put in where they're needed, and we need new roads and new sewers where they're needed. The Riverside area there, it's flooding. West side, it's flooding. By increasing the sewers, the size of the sewers, it can increase the rain. If they get an increase in rainfall, it can greatly increase the sewer needed. Sorry, I'm nervous here. You just increase the roads and new sewers where they're needed. That's what I have right now.
So I get how horrible basement flooding is. I too have experienced it during the flood of last year and once prior to that. And what you need to know is that we have a patchwork under the City of Windsor of 6 separate sewer systems that make up a little over 1,700 kilometers of combined sewer in the City of Windsor. And these are a product of amalgamation that goes back to the different jurisdictions into 1935. Over the past 10 years, again, judge me on my record, over the past 10 years, we have spent $500 million on our sewer infrastructure. $500 million, record investment in the system. What have we done since 2014? I implemented the 8-point plan, and we spent $15.9 million in flood abatement measures, including the basement flooding protection subsidy program. And we funded that, we increased funding to that to 100% of eligible costs to give residents the fighting chance of protecting your basement in the event of another high-intensity rainstorm. If anyone here lives in South Windsor, anyone golfs at Roseland Golf Course, look at what we've done out there with the Lennon Drain. We just completed last week the $4 million Lennon Drain expansion. It's massive, and it will provide very immediate relief, storm sewer relief, to folks who live around St. Clair College and in South Windsor. We are completing a full camera mapping of all 1,700 kilometers of our sewer system. Never before have we had that, and we are doing that now, and it's almost done. We are doing smoke and dye testing throughout the system to find cross connections. We are doing flow monitoring throughout the system to determine bottlenecks and problem areas. All this work is being done to inform our sewer master plan, which we started. The sewer master plan will be completed in its entirety in 2019. But we're not waiting till 2019. We asked for the first tranche that we can move forward with. And Dylan Consulting, who's doing the plan for us, came forward and said, Riverside and East Riverside is your first plan of attack. Here's an $89 million plan that if you undertake this, you will be able to make a significant difference in the Riverside and East Riverside area. I brought that immediately to City Council, and we got it approved. We're now applying for $40 million in federal funding through the Disaster Mitigation Fund. But even if we don't get that funding, we will find a way to do this, folks. We have to. And I'm not making that up. We have over $20 million towards that plan already committed in our 6-year capital budget, approved by City Council. And so this will be the first of several plans that come forward. And I would expect if there are 2, 3, or 4 more of those plans to cover the rest of the City of Windsor, you can expect the order of magnitude for those plans to cost somewhere around $100 million each. And it will take 10 years to move through. It'll be the next mayor and the next 10 mayors that are going to continue to work on this plan because the problem has existed for a long time and no one person can solve it in one term of council. So we're on it. We've got the plan developed. We're giving you a fighting chance with the basement flooding subsidy protection program, and we're going to get it done.
In 1979, when I started my business in Windsor, I lived on Bing Road. And Turner, Bing, Bliss, Woodward Avenue have not been touched at all, except a little portion of Turner Road in the last few years. So really, those people out there are living with ditches in front of their homes. And in today's era, this should not be happening. Dominion Boulevard is probably a big problem for a lot of people. And that should have been 4 lanes now. Don't take years and years to build it. Windsor needs roads now. And the only way the roads are going to be built now is toll roads. And toll roads coming into this city, every entrance coming into this city at $1 each way, in and out, will start construction of these different projects now. Not when whoever's, if he's reelected or someone else gets in the mayor's chair. I know if I'm the mayor, toll roads are going up immediately because that's going to create 300, 400 jobs plus construction jobs immediately. The people in the county live out in the county because their taxes are cheaper. And we, the taxpayers of Windsor, pay for them to come use our streets. So the way I look at it, you want to live in Windsor, come and pay our taxes. But if you don't want to and you want to live in the county, you want to come into the city, you're going to pay $1 each way, maybe even $2. But really, even some of that money could start a free transit service throughout the county of Essex. So indirectly, the people in the county would get free bus transportation with the tolls that are collected and would help everybody. I think it's a win-win for everyone in the city and the county. Toll roads are number one to raise the funds now. Thank you.
I was privileged to have been chosen to sit on the Sewer Master Plan Advisory Committee briefly before I announced my candidacy for their initial inaugural meeting, and we went over some of the details of the mayor's 8-point plan. The first 2 or 3 points, of course, are, let's do a study and let's find out what's going on and look at some of the numbers. And we've gone through that process now, and as the mayor's indicated to you today, if we were to target some of the areas that we need to focus on, we're looking roughly at about $500 million to protect your basements. And in the meantime, the only thing we can really offer you is, well, disconnect your downspouts and get a backflow valve installed in your basement sewers. I think before we move forward with this type of investment, we really need to take a look at the value that we can expect to get from it in terms not only of repairing our sewer and drainage issues, but also looking at how we can integrate that with other investments that need to be done simultaneously, like repairing our roads and sidewalks and other infrastructure material. When you're driving down an underpass and you see there's 3-4 feet of water there and there's a stranded vehicle practically floating, it makes you wonder, why was that underpass designed that way in the first place? I mean, water always goes downhill. So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at and addressed, but primarily I think where we fall short, where we can make some immediate relief for people who do suffer in major events that affect your homes, is to have a better way of responding to the aftermath of these events. We're all familiar with driving down the street after a major flood, and everybody's got their old couch pitched out on the curb, and a lot of their stuff has been ruined as a result of water damage. Some people, unfortunately, can't even get insurance, so it's just a write-off, but that stuff has to be picked up. We need to have a response that allows for a rapid recovery from these events, and we need to put in place some better planning as far as I'm concerned. It's a high priority issue for everyone here, not just for residential property owners, but also for commercial activity. We can't afford to have factories and industry shut down as a result of power outages and flooding. And we need to take a look at all of these aspects and really make sure that we get it right and we get the right value for the right amount of money.
So like a lot of things in our community, we're behind the curve. Whether it's opioid downtown, flooded basements, or behind the curve. We put out a plan today to accelerate the sewer master plan from 10 years to 6. Why? Because our residents are suffering, particularly in the Riverside area. They've been suffering in flooded basements. Some of them can't get insurance. They've got stuff on the street. They've had to do this 2 or 3 times over the past number of years. The status quo isn't working. And so we put out a plan today to accelerate from 10 years to 6 years. The reason why? Because we want to take our money and invest it in the community. We're going to get away from the legacy projects. We're going to get away from streetcars. We're going to put all that money into you, into the community. You are the folks that have been suffering, particularly on the flooding stuff. And the Marchand for Mayor campaign is going to ensure that money is spent on community priorities and not legacy priorities. And we put that plan out today. It's available on our website, votemarchand.com. So flooded basements is going to be a priority. We're going to get it done in 6 years. We took the city sewer master plan, and we shopped it around to some major architectural and engineering firms and said, can this be done faster? And we had some of the best folks in the country look at it. They came back and said, it's a matter of political will. It's a matter of leadership. If you elect me, we're going to get it done in 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 3. According to 2013 statistics from the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit, Windsor-Essex has worse than Ontario average rates of diabetes, COPD, stroke, and cancer. As mayor, what will you do to reduce these terrible numbers?
So thank you for that question. We fund the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit to the tune of $3 million in 2018, and they are the lead for public health protection and promotion in the community. But the city does have a role to play. Make no mistake, the city has a role to play in health and wellness for the residents who live here. And we do that in concert and in partnership with organizations like the Diabetes Association, Heart and Stroke, the CMHA, the Health Unit, United Way, and different food banks. The city also led the Pathway to Potential program with a $2.2 million investment. The city of Windsor has been at the leadership table from the very start for Prosper Us, something just in the last 10 days, we have had the press conference, announced it in partnership with the United Way and other community leaders to support that collective impact model that has started under our former Pathway to Potential program. The City of Windsor led the Healthy Kids Challenge in partnership with the Health Unit, local school boards, and other community partners. That challenge promoted physical activity, running and jumping and playing every day, eating more fruits and vegetables, drinking water instead of sugary drinks. We helped lead that. The city led Open Streets. The whole idea with Open Streets is to get you out there, but it's to get you active as well. The city contributed to the Jumpstart program through Pathway to Potential, healthy lunches and snack programs in area schools. The city invested in community centers, parks, sports programs, playgrounds, fields, recreation centers. And all of that stuff, folks, is to provide the programming, to provide the outlet for people in our community to get active and to stay healthy. And for those who can't afford those programs, we help subsidize those families as well, so all kids have the chance to participate. We invest in multi-use trails, cycling paths. In fact, just this past Monday, City Council approved a $500,000 report that will help fund off-street cycling. Investments in community pools, including the community pool in this center as well. We're supporting the new Miracle Park so that folks and kids and seniors who are physically challenged have an opportunity to participate and stay healthy. We open up Pesh Island. We invest in sport tourism. When we do that because that helps inspire people in our community to get active and to become involved in sport. And we now have a diving club in the city of Windsor because of the support that we provided to the diving event at FINA. And some would tell you, my opponents would tell you, that these are expenses. They lose money. Folks, every community center, every library, every pool, our transit system, there's a reason that a city provides it. They're not expenses. They're investments in the community. And we'll continue to make those investments moving forward. We will continue to make those investments because it's the right thing to do for you and the right thing to do for your families.
I'm not going to speak on this issue. Drew Dilkens said what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Well, you realize we did sell the library, right? So I'm not sure whether the pool is next. Maybe that's on the table at some point, but I don't know. But I think, one of the issues that we really need to focus on is that we're living in a community that does have an aging population and that has specific needs when it comes to healthcare and access to resources for recreation and for physical well-being. And we need to continue to invest in those, but also do so in a way that meets that community's requirements and people's needs who are in the position where they need to deal with cancer and diabetes and be sensitive to those conditions in our community. I also think, again, that when we're looking at a situation where the current generation of children is living in a situation that is not optimized, we have a quarter of them living below the poverty line, we need to do some planning. I think as elected officials and as a mayor, you need to be cognizant of the fact that the decisions you're making today don't just affect you for the next week or the next year or for the next 4 years while you're in office. It affects future generations as well, and I think we're paying the price for bad decisions that were made in the past. We need to really take a look at what we can do to build more recreation centers, make sure they're accessible, make sure that public transit is accessible so that people who are using the facilities to better their health or to treat these serious conditions can do so in a way that is economical and is not going to be a burden to their families and to themselves. And I think we're on the right track. I think we just need to ramp it up a little bit more and be sensitive to the fact that there is an aging population here in Windsor, and we need to address that in a very vocal way. Thank you.
So if given the privilege to serve as your mayor, there's a couple things I'd like to do. We can't do everything as mayor, but there's a couple things that we can do. First is that under my platform plan, I have $50 million community livability fund. And that's to help and make it close to neighborhoods, improve our neighborhood athletic opportunities. You can walk there and not take the bus. We want to be sensitive to those people who aren't particularly able. We want to make sure we have those facilities close by. So that's part of the reason why I proposed a $50 million community livability fund over the next 10 years. Also in our strategic plan 2022, the Windsor 2022 plan, we're talking about redoing Transit Windsor. So having a more north-south, east-west, rather than the circular kind of snake routes going through. There may be an opportunity to give more frequency, more often, to go places that are easier for folks to get to. It's important that we recognize the fact that health going forward is going to be key. We need to get people outside. We need to provide the facilities for folks to get them there. And the other thing too, I would say, we've chronically underfunded our health unit. That goes back for a number of years. And we need to get back to funding our health unit to get those proper programs, to get the education, to get people in better health and the opportunities to have better health through our local health unit. Thank you.
Okay, my plan is to open up a naturopathic doctor's school right downtown. The naturopathic doctors, I'm a student of naturopathic myself. I didn't graduate, I just keep reading the books. I went to school for it, but I didn't graduate. And I keep reading the books though, new books for it. And we need a school right downtown where the doctors can learn whatever. And with the doctors in town, they'll greatly increase the educate the public, and I want to have a doctor for every person, just like a family doctor. You go to a family doctor, you go to see a naturopathic doctor to get health, better health, and that medical doctors, they don't teach you how to eat, the foods to eat, and stuff like that. They just give you medicines, and medication isn't the answer. It's a naturopathic doctor school right downtown.
Thank you. Final question, number 4. One of the initiatives that will assist in closing the gender pay gap is access to affordable childcare. When will the City of Windsor open a daycare center for its employees? Ernie, can you start and then go back this way? Drew next.
Windsor had a daycare center at one time, but everything boils around dollars. I don't know about this one. But I'd say one thing, and the City of Windsor has money. The money could come from the slush fund from that casino. You know something, when you really think about it, that $24 million a year the city gets from that casino, if there was no casino in Windsor, there'd be no $24 million a year. There'd be no $180,000 a month from union dues that's paid to Local 4-4. So indirectly, I think Local 4-4 should up the ante and give $90,000 a month and put those people to work at CAW wages. CAW wages, not $15 an hour, CAW wages. And let the City of Windsor release some of that $24 million a year they're getting from my casino idea, and put the daycare center people to work. City of Windsor has 2 floors at the Canderel building. I don't know if they're still paying the lease or not. If they're not, bonus, those two are open. And really, the City of Windsor has a lot of open spaces where we could put a daycare center starting tomorrow morning. The city's got the money. If they can hire 24 policemen, they sure can put daycare to work, the way I look at it. And CAW people got the money, and the city's got the money, just got to open the purses. We already have enough policemen downtown. So if the policemen are doing their jobs, we don't need to hire another additional 24. Take that money and start the daycare center tomorrow morning. Thank you.
So the City of Windsor, several years ago, got out of the child care delivery business. And I voted and put my hand up to support that decision, and I would certainly, as mayor, not plan on reintroducing a city-run daycare center. When we ran our own facility, we were the high-cost provider in the City of Windsor because we were paying city wages. We were the high-cost provider in the City of Windsor, and we were also competing with the private sector whose business was to provide child care. Now, that doesn't mean we were ignoring child care. So what does the City of Windsor do? The City of Windsor provides subsidies to our employees and others who require financial assistance to access community child care programs. And if you make $50,000 to $60,000 a year, you qualify for some level of subsidy towards your child care costs. The city spends approximately $15 million a year supporting more than 3,000 families, depending on the month, 3,000 to 3,500 families per year with some level of subsidy to achieve affordable, accessible daycare. We have also expanded childcare. So if any of you have driven down Walker Road, you see the old pool shop there close to Division, you'll see that there is a brand new Toy Box childcare center there. In fact, we've helped support the creation of 350 additional childcare spaces for infant and toddlers this year alone. Many City of Windsor employees. So what do we do as a city? Many City of Windsor employees take advantage of flexible and compressed work weeks and job schedules and job sharing to facilitate their childcare needs. and school drop-off and pickup according to the family schedule. We facilitate that. We are very generous as a city with our parental and our maternity and our adoption leave. We, in fact, top up the EI to help support parents in the city of Windsor. And the city of Windsor, because the question talks about gender pay gap, the city of Windsor is fully pay equity compliant. Every position in the city is rated using the exact same tool to ensure that there is no gender gap in either hourly or salary positions at the city of Windsor.
I'm surprised that the city doesn't have one already right downtown. There's a vacancy there, right downtown there. But if I was to be elected mayor, I would have one right away, right downtown. So as soon as I'm elected into your office, I'd open a daycare center up for the people downtown there. Thank you.
So in provinces like Quebec, New Brunswick, and BC, where childcare is subsidized, you have, excuse me, 80% of women have gone back in the workforce. It's 80% of women have gone back in the workforce where there's subsidized childcare. After I announced, one of the first folks I met with were some women interested in childcare opportunities because they know how expensive it is. They're saying, is there a way a large employer like the City of Windsor can have childcare services? You have scale, you have opportunity. A lot of women are not able to work because they have 2 or more kids or 1 or more kids because of the cost. It costs more to have childcare than it does to go to work. Well, yeah, exactly. And that's something that if you make it it gets back to priorities. What is the corporation's priority? It all gets back to that. Is it a priority to have childcare taken care of at the workplace, particularly a large employer with scale? Is it a priority? I think the answer is yes. Look at the data. 80% of women have gone back into the workforce in these provinces. That's huge. We're leaving a lot of economic opportunity on the table. Having women stay at home, not being able to come to work. We want women in the workforce. Yeah. And the way to do that, of course, they are the ones oftentimes that have the burden of childcare. We have to help eliminate that burden. And as mayor, I will help you do that. Thank you.
The way I see it is pretty straightforward. We have, as I said before, 1 in 4 children living below the poverty line, and we need to be able to empower families so that they can move above and beyond that situation. And one of the ways that you can do that is by providing good quality access to childcare and education. And I think this is really a situation of we can pay for it now or we can pay a lot more for it later. So I'm in favor of it, and I think we should have done it yesterday. That's where I stand.
Thank you. Those are our 4 set questions, and now we're going to ask some questions that have come in from the audience. We've asked you to submit them. Some people have, and I'm going to start by just vetting them because I think some have already been asked. So moving right along, there's a question about flooding and the difference between a person who doesn't flood, but the homeowner that floods has to pay extra. So I think we've heard most of your answers regarding that, but that's a little caution that it's still a priority. I did hear some candidates talk, about an Auditor General, but I'm going to ask the specific question from the audience, which is that an Auditor General with unfettered access to information and the power to subpoena witnesses can save a lot of money by scrutinizing what the city does and figuring out how to do it better. Do you think the city should have an Auditor General? And the second question is, how much is that going to cost? So who wishes to start? You are not obliged to answer all of the questions if you don't want to, but please chime in if you do.
One of our key platform planks is honesty, transparency, and accountability. And the way you get there is an Auditor General. Independent, with subpoena power, comes in, does value for money audits, goes through the books, tells you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. That is what transparency and accountability is all about. Yeah. It's not, yeah. It's not hiring someone to say, look at the books and then, but don't look over here and don't do a value for money audit there. We want a value for money audit on all the things the city touches. The ratio, we're looking at the city of Toronto, for every dollar they spent on an auditor general, they got $8.50 return. Now, who doesn't want an $8.50 return on $1 spent? It's also, it's more important than that. It's about accountability. It's about having the politicians accountable by an independent body. Not someone they hire, not someone they say, well, look at this and that's okay. Don't look over there. Why wouldn't we have an auditor general? Why wouldn't we? There's no reason not to have one. Transparency, accountability. Politicians have to be accountable to the public. It's your money. They have to be accountable. And the way you do it is you have an independent municipal auditor general with subpoena power to say, go through the books, and as good leaders, what's the number one thing a good leader does? Tell me what I'm doing right, but more importantly, tell me what it is we're doing wrong, because we're managing your money. Yeah, we're managing your money, and you need to know from an independent source that it's being spent wisely. And I've talked about this, whether it's the Aquatic Center or Enwin or other places. There's been a lot of transactions gone around that no one has seen. Even the Plissur Street parking garage. Larry Horowitz had to file a Freedom of Information request for the city to tell him how they spend his money. Transparency. A vote for Matt Marchand is a vote, don't take this to the bank, is a vote for transparency and accountability. I said we'll have an auditor general within 100 days if you give me the privilege to serve office. Thank you.
I'm in favor of a auditor general too. He's pretty well said it all here, but a vote for me is a vote for auditor general. Thanks.
Not surprised that my opponent would like to see an auditor general, because when he worked in the mayor's office, you may remember something called MFP. You may remember something called the Canderel project, which we cleaned up last month. Took that long, but we cleaned it up last month on your behalf. He may remember the fiascos at Enwin, the fiascos related to getting into businesses like hot water tanks and fiber optic companies, which costed you and I millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so our city, talk about value for money, we've done value for money on your behalf. We have hired PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they can talk about subpoenaing. This never happens, folks. So it sounds good around here, gets you all riled up that Auditor General is going to go around and subpoena people. This doesn't happen. So we have an independent party called PricewaterhouseCoopers who has undertaken lots and lots of audits on your behalf, all entirely done in public session. The whole audit plan is based on the risk universe in the corporation of the City of Windsor. Council approves or denies the plan, and then they go and do it. Council can add or subtract or delete. They never have. They've always accepted the plan presented by PricewaterhouseCoopers. And so we get good value for money on the reports that we get back from PwC. Now, he didn't tell you what the cost would be. That was part of the question. What's the cost? At least $300,000 more a year to the taxpayers to have an in-house Auditor General, plus more. Plus they're going to build a staff. They're going to build a staff, right? And don't be fooled. Don't be fooled with this notion that 8.5 times the return on an investment, because there is a study out there in Toronto that they get 8.5 times. Why is it that not every municipality in Ontario and across Canada has adopted it? Don't be fooled, folks. You're way too smart. Don't be fooled here. So I continue to support the process we've put in place with PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's effective, it's efficient, and it provides value for money for each and every one of you.
Matt Marchand, you were in the mayor's office when he was mayor, and why did you have an auditor general then? For that Canderel building that cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. Where were you then? Why didn't you have an auditor general then when you were in the mayor's office? No, you don't do nothing. Now you're running on a platform as an auditor general that costs the taxpayers more money. The way I see City Hall running for the last 4 years under Dilkens, even though I'm running against him, that the finance guy that we've got in the city of Windsor, and he used to be the finance guy in Windsor, has done a great job at City Hall. So don't let this Marchand try to spend more of your money for nothing. I say to the taxpayers of Windsor, beware. Ernie Lamont.
Don't talk about that. Answer the question.
I answered the question, and what do you have to say?
I want to know what you're going to do with it.
Well, I'm not going to have an auditor general to spend $300,000. You understand?
Where'd you get that figure? Where'd you get $300,000? Where'd you get that?
So whatever it does cost, whatever it does cost.
Yeah, you get it.
So whatever it costs, what does it matter? We don't need an auditor. We don't need an auditor general. We don't need an auditor general. You understand?
Why did they fire the last one?
We don't need one,
Why
brother.
did we fire the last one?
Why did we? You know the answer?
Because he wanted to run it.
Okay, order
What's
please.
that?
He wanted to run the aquatic center.
Order please.
Aquatic center?
Order please. Order please now. Order please. Thank you so
No
much.
problem, no problem.
Appreciate that answer.
I got your attention, big guy.
Does anybody else want to weigh into that, or can we go to the next question?
I got your attention.
We're ready to go to the next question.
You are, too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Call the cops.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. I've had another question about here. There's a lady here who wants to ask a question, so please take the mic, stand up, will you?
Hi. I'd like to know what you think the solution is to deal with the aging baby boomers and the limited long-term access facilities, as well as the limited mental health care facilities that those people are currently occupying the beds in the hospital. And I don't want your answer to be, we're going to wait for the mega hospital. What do you think the solution is to deal with right now? What strategies do you have in place to get those people moving out of the hospital so we can have more health care and get them into the facilities that they need to be in?
Okay, is your question directed to anyone in particular?
Anyone who wants to answer?
Anybody want to answer that first?
Give it to me, I'll take it on.
Okay.
I'll be nice, okay? That was a very good question, lady. I would say that we have a building downtown. He's an outside contractor from, a developer from London, Ontario. I really do think if this man was approached next to the Hilton Hotel, used to be, I don't forget the name now, but it's empty right now, unless it's being converted to the students downtown. I think it's available. That's right. And this man, just pay attention. This man's a good man, because I've been in his office 2 or 3 times in London. There's a man that's willing to step forward if we ask him, and I'll guarantee you, your problem will be solved tomorrow. I could call him, wait a minute, I could call him, but the mayor's office has more power than I do. And he knows him maybe a little bit better than I do. But the problem could be solved with Mr. Farry. Mr. Farry also, wait a minute, you asked me a question. Mr. Farry owns a lot of property in the city of Windsor. Why don't you give this man a chance to develop the land he has downtown on Riverside Drive, and I think the problem could be solved very soon.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to answer that question?
I'll happily answer it and just say that the Mr. Farry property is not available. City Council approved some community improvement money to help him fund a $15 million expansion. He's going to put a hotel back into that building, a DoubleTree hotel. But with respect to healthcare facilities, there's no doubt the challenge is funding from the provincial government. That's what the issue is. And today, the Premier announced, I think, 90 million, or must be more than 90 million, because that would be a drop in the bucket. But he announced money to try and end hallway healthcare. And so the city as an organization, healthcare is not under our umbrella. And we see the problems. We see the problems with mental health. We see the problem with addictions. And we know these people that are downtown and requiring treatment. If they overdose, the first point of entry is the emergency room. They get treated, they get stabilized, and you try and get them into a program, and access is not available in the program. It's for everything though. It's funding. Well, so I'm talking healthcare. So if you want to talk long-term care, we operate Huron Lodge, one of the premier facilities in the city of Windsor. We're required to do that. We operate it, and I think we do it very well. There is a huge waiting list for long-term care. For the best facilities, there is a huge, huge waiting list. Yes, 2 years for Huron Lodge, to get into Huron Lodge. It's a challenge. It's a problem. But the answer is funding. And the answer is not that the city taxpayer through the property tax base can fund additional facilities like Huron Lodge. It requires funding from the provincial government to be sustainable in any real format.
Well, I would like to say that in the long-term care space, what's important is collaboration and relationships. And I think that's largely what our campaign is about. We need to reach out to folks that maybe can participate in finding additional space. Maybe it's corporate sponsorships, maybe it's from the labor community, maybe it's from somebody else. If we're not getting it done to the satisfaction that it should be done, that's on us. So let's work together to see what we can do to get more space to make sure our long-term care beds are taken care of. So thank you for the question.
Any other comments? I have other questions. A couple of these questions are regarding homelessness, affordable housing, and one is an example of someone who has a son in a motel paying a large price because there's no affordable housing. So I'm wondering, with all the vacant property, whether or not anybody has a plan for how to address homelessness by using vacant property. Matt, go first.
Just again, going back to our Windsor 2022 strategy, we talked about a number of ideas that we've looked at through best practices across North America. I'll just give you a couple of examples that we can refurbish taxpayer city-owned residential properties into new social or affordable housing where appropriate. These houses can be located throughout the city and can help form a mix of affordable housing and regular housing. We can also accelerate the incentives and waive permit fees to expedite approvals for the creation of proper in-law suites. And finally, we can identify city-owned property as potential locations and consider rezoning them for residential. So the city has properties. I think our responsibility is to say, how are we going to use that stock to continue the quest of dealing with the homeless issue? We have the property. We have the opportunity. How best do we work together to make that happen? And we've outlined a number of these proposals here on our Windsor 2022 strategy. I encourage you to look at it. We have thought about it. We have some good ideas, and I've just given you a couple of them, but please feel free to have a look at that at your leisure. Thank you.
Now, the affordable housing, the west side is in disrepair, needs decrepit, needs to be rebuilt. I propose the west side, or any area where it needs to be redone, to demolish the building and then either rebuild a new house or just make it so that you can have a travel trailer pull up, hook up the sewer, hook up the water line, and then $10,000 buys you a fairly new 30-foot travel trailer. So it's affordable, and that's what I propose. I think that we could have affordable housing right on the west side, right where it's all decrepit and needs to be repaired. Thanks.
So we've seen an increase in population over the last 4 years by a little over 3%. We've also seen, and we weren't aware of, but it happened to us, where St. Clair College, due to their success, brought in 5,000 students, mostly from India, some from China. And so all of those folks are competing for real estate and for vacancies in the city of Windsor. And in fact, we have a very low vacancy rate in the city of Windsor. And that creates pressure and obviously supply and demand. It causes prices to rise across the city. And so as I mentioned to you in one of my other answers, it's this city council. We brought forward a plan to invest and to put money and build up to 150 affordable housing units on Meadowbrook. It's the biggest investment any city council has made in 30 years. We've done that. That's in the process right now. I've also said we're willing to turn the Karen Avenue parking lot into affordable housing. That's the parking lot on Karen Avenue that we own between University and Riverside Drive. It's almost not used at all, very, very underused. And we are doing and paying for the Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental assessment. That's the first step required because there was an old gas station on one of the corners. We'll have to clean some earth there. But that's the first step required to get a record of site condition that will allow us to get a developer in there and work with them to waive property taxes, to waive development charges, to be able to invest in additional affordable housing on that particular site. Many folks have talked about the deal we made with the Windsor Mission and the library. And they came to us with an agreement of purchase and sale, wanting to buy that property in the parking lot. But the one thing and the part of the conversation that I appreciated the most with Ron Dunn, who's here, is what they plan on doing on the second floor. And the second floor, Ron, 35 units. Part of their deal here, folks, was to create 35 affordable housing units for people in the community to get stabilized, to get the help that they need. And so it was an approval unanimously approved by the library board, unanimously approved by city council, because we understand the challenge out there and we want to be supportive. So again, judge me on my record. I'm not sure, I'm quite happy to say we're the first council in 30 years to make this type of investment. We're doing it. That's my record. I'm proud of it. I run towards it, and we'll continue to do more as we can and find other existing properties. Believe it or not, the city of Windsor doesn't have a plethora of properties that are just waiting there and ready to be renovated. And if we did, you'd still have to budget the money and do it in a financially reasonable way. And so because of our financial success, and I said this the other night at City Council, we have 4,700 people on a waiting list, we could borrow $1 billion. We have that much borrowing capacity as a city. The units we're creating on Meadowbrook are $200,000 each. So if I wanted to solve the list and create 4,700 units, I could do that. It would cost me $940 million. I'd still have a little money left in the bank. But I guarantee as soon as we solve that entire problem, you will have 5,000 more people here knocking on the door because the wait list is lower. So we have to do it in a measured, reasonable, financially prudent way. We're doing that, and we're delivering results.
Affordable housing in Windsor, there's so much abuse in the housing developments in Windsor from the west end to the east end. The people in these housing units right now, if you look in the parking lots on the weekend, there's American plates all over Windsor. These people here have better lives than we do, and we, the taxpayers, are taking the burden. You look at the benefits we give the people on a social assistance. I'm pretty sure they get all their benefits from the city of Windsor. And really, that's costing the taxpayers a fortune. People don't realize what the city of Windsor pays for the homeless people and affordable housing in the city of Windsor. Building more affordable housing, the only way we're going to do anything is get those people off welfare and put them to work in Leamington, where they should be earning $15 to $20 an hour, depending on their qualifications. But the majority of the people in Windsor don't want to talk about that. As long as the taxpayers are paying the full debt, people are not worrying about it. Maybe it's your own sons and daughters that are on welfare. Why should the taxpayers continue being the burden to build more affordable housing in Windsor when we don't need it? If those people went to work, they could be off the housing units that we have in the city, and we don't have to build anymore. And like Drew just said, they're coming in from all over Ontario, because Ontario, Windsor is a place to be. The warm weather, the cheaper taxes, value of homes is better than Toronto. This is what we need in Windsor. So you, the taxpayers that are out there right now, look at your pocketbooks. Why do we want to have our taxes raised? No. I feel the people that are on assistance and social assistance, the people at the mission, they could all go to work in Leamington and help us all. Thank you.
That's the way it is.
Is there any other comments on that question? Thank you.
You know, just, I think we need to keep in mind that when we're talking about affordable housing and you know, we're talking about individual people that actually live in these houses. We're not talking about the structures. It's really an issue that revolves around the human experience. You know, we talk about homelessness. Well, what does it mean not to have a home? It doesn't just mean that you're out on the street. It also means that you don't have a support network and a safety net where you can, you know, have some comfort and be in safety to, you know, prepare yourself to deal with whatever's on your plate the next day. There's a lot more to this than just, you know, let's, you know, kick the bums out and, you know, we'll ignore the problem and forget that they're people. With all due respect to Mr. Lamont, I think we can't really take that approach, and I think it's a very dangerous thing to even suggest when we start losing sight of the fact that we're dealing with real human beings. These are our neighbors, they're our brothers and sisters, and they're our families. And we do need to take a much more serious approach to providing affordable housing at all levels. What I will say is that affordable means different things. It means also that we need to work on building people up so that they can afford what is already out there on the market. And that means creating better jobs that are higher paying. It means training our young people so that they can take advantage of jobs that provide higher wages and a better standard of living, and so that they can support their families and ultimately own their own homes and contribute to being one of our city's taxpayers. So I think we need to take a broader approach. I think just taking a shotgun approach and saying, listen, you know, it's somebody else's problem. It isn't. It's everybody's problem. We live in these houses, and quite frankly, some of the situations that people are dealing with are absolutely appalling. And we're better than that, and I think we can do much better than that. And I'm prepared to address those issues as your mayor. Thank you.
I have a question from the audience here. Please stand.
Hi, my name is Arlene Deschamps. I'm from the Riverside area that flooded. I just have a few comments, and you can comment on whatever you want. I recommend the Villa Maria for the homeless. I think it's a building. I don't know if it's still available. I think we're looking after side roads, and we should be looking after main roads like Seminole. I'm just wondering what you all think about the new mega hospital going out in that across from the airport. And Mayor Dilkens, why are you spending $3 million on lights at Jackson Park and $1 million on an old train, and you refuse to spend $3,000 on lights in our alleys for safety for our taxpayers? Comments, please.
Does anyone wish to go first? I see no. Any comment from anyone? Thank you.
Well, your point, our campaign is about redirecting community priorities. We're going to have community investment into community priorities. Our plan has money for alley lights, to your point, and that's an important point. Safety is predominant. There was a food fight at City Council over alley lights. It's unbelievable that they wouldn't have money for alley lights, given we just spent $750,000 on whatever, streetcar, or $1 million on a parking garage, or a lot of other things. What are the community's priorities? What the community priorities is what we're going to spend our money on. It's not that difficult. So to your point, alley lights is in our plan. I'll talk a little about the hospital site. So the downtown site, if I'm elected, mayor's not going anywhere, okay? So we're going to reinvest in that site. We're going to make it a center of excellence for mental health. We're going to have 24/7 medical emergency care for families. And we're going to make sure that everybody in the downtown and the West End, I have a lot of friends in the West End too, and Riverside and so forth, they don't have to go out to County Road 42. That's too far. We need downtown access, we need downtown opportunity for that hospital, and we're not paying for development charges out on 42. That's where I said that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple of things about the Christmas tree. You know, Christmas is coming up again, and it was a spectacular light show. It was very popular, and I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed it, but I think we do need to refocus our priorities. We are living in a situation now where we've got some really serious problems, and we cannot go to the taxpayer and say, listen, we just blew $1.5 million on pretty lights at Christmas. Now let's increase your taxes by 1% so that we can get our sewers fixed faster. That just does not fly with me. I think if we took a different approach and we looked at where we can get the best value for money, then these things like Christmas displays and festivals, let's get private sponsors on board with these things. Let's get corporate sponsors that can benefit as well and participate, and perhaps employ a few people during the holiday season so that they can have some Christmas presents under their tree as well. I don't think we need to be doing it with tax dollars. I think there are alternatives to that approach. Statues, trolley cars, Christmas lights, they're all wonderful and they're all great aspects of our community, but I think there are better ways to approach funding them that don't dip into the pot that we really need to use for other higher priority items. Matt's talking about a program where he's already up to about $90 million just with three parts of his plan, and a 1% increase to deal with some fast tracking for important things. And it may come down to those decisions, but how do you justify that by looking at it and say, well, we spent money on something that wasn't necessarily a high priority item? And we really need to come together as a community and be much more vocal when it comes to our priorities, and City Hall needs to listen to that before we start spending your bank account for those things. And independent auditor general, Matt, I'm glad you're on board with that, but why are you waiting 100 days? I think it's something that should have been done yesterday. I think we need to fast track that as well before we start taking a look at the budget process. It's something that needs to be put in place immediately, and I think that should be expedited as well. So that's where I stand.
Someone else? Sure.
Thank you, Arlene, for the question. With respect to the hospital, it should be no surprise to anyone in the room here that I do support the location of the new hospital on County Road 42. I think it would be somewhat disingenuous for me to sit here in front of you tonight and say I don't support that location when it was the City of Windsor and I was part of the council that agreed to submit the property directly across the street for consideration in the process. And so I think that it is the right location. I think folks need to remember that this is a regional hospital funded partially by the city, but also funded partially by the county. And we have a shared responsibility to work with those partners to get the funding required to deliver on the hospital. Thank you for asking the question about the trolley. Thank you for asking the question about the trolley and the bright lights. I very much appreciate that. And so with respect to bright lights, we spent $1.5 million last year. That came from money collected from Enwyn and the casino. That's the money that went into the event last year. We're going to spend the other amount this year, and it's going to be spectacular because 60,000 people walked through the gates at Jackson Park last year and appreciated that display. That is a legacy project as part of the city's 125th birthday. And you know what? I think it's just a wonderful display and a wonderful rallying point for quality of life for the community to come together in a park at a time of the year where they would normally be at home. And I'm very proud of that event. With respect to the streetcar, this is one opportunity that I never campaigned on in 2014 because I didn't know it would become available. But we had the opportunity to acquire one of the last of 3 remaining streetcars that operated in the city of Windsor. The system ceased in 1938. We were the first city in Canada to have an electric streetcar. It's part of our history. Not Toronto, not Vancouver, Montreal, or anywhere else. The city of Windsor had the first electric streetcar in Canada. We had the option to get it. We got it. We funded it without having to increase your taxes. We were going to build another parking garage. We decided not to do that, and we took it from that pot of money. But you know what? We had a plan, and the plan is underway. And it's not going to sit in some warehouse. Not like when they tore down for the Canderel building, the Norwich block. When they tore down the Norwich block, and they saved the TD Bank facade, and they spent $250,000 of your money, hoping one day that they'd find a place to put it up. Well, guess where it is, folks? It's sitting on the ground at the sewage treatment plant. It has been for 20 years. There was no plan, but they spent $250,000 of your money. And your last question, Arlene, with respect to alley lights could have been installed years ago. The councillors all have ward funds. At any point, a councillor who thinks there's an issue in their ward has the ability to spend the ward funds to address the issues that they see. That funding was always available, and it took a life of its own because certain people wanted to make things political, but I can assure you, and you can go check the records for yourself, That money was there, ready and able to be spent for many years.
Hello there, lady. This is Ernie. I'm going to speak direct to you, okay? I supported the mega hospital out there because basically we got to take care of the county and we got to take care of the Windsor residents, number one. As far as the streetcar go, I got no problem with that. That'll probably be the ice cream parlor for you to go and visit and enjoy ice cream. Now, as far as the lights, I think the lights was a great idea. And I think that they should continue. You know what I would like to see at City Hall would be like in Vegas. They have Fremont Street with a show inside the lights would be great downtown, right to the river. Now, pay attention now. You think a streetcar, but if I become mayor of Windsor, you know what I want to do? I want to bring in 747 jumbo jetliners. You know why I want to do that? I want to put them between Glengarry and Elmer, Riverside Drive to University, and turn all those 747s into casinos and give them to Caesars Windsor to do other things that we need to do in the city of Windsor. And it would be a winner for you to sit in a 747 and have dinner. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jumping off from what was just commented on, one of the questions was, if elected, would you continue the ward funds program? And if so, what changes would you make to how the money is doled out?
I'll take that. Thank you very much. I put on a platform today, our 8th in a series of platforms. We will be eliminating the ward funds. It's not proper process. It's going to be eliminated and it's going to go into the regular process. It's not going to turn into a political, you can clap. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you can clap. It's going to be done properly. It's going to be done through proper order. We're not going to have favoritism, and it's not going to turn into a political, slush fund of projects that, you call me and all this. We're going to do it regular order. We're going to do things the old-fashioned way. We're going to meet. We're going to talk about it. Yeah, and we're going to collaborate on it. We're not going to say, well, I owe you a favor and this and that. No, we got along just well without ward funds for many, many years, and it's time to go back to proper process and not use it as a way to do favoritism and all this kind of political games that goes on. Proper process, it's your money. Thank you.
Well, it's clear from that answer that my opponent doesn't understand what ward funds are. And so ward funds are given to every member of council in equal distribution. This year, I think it was $100,000. Every council, all 10 wards, got $100,000 to decide how to spend ward funds for issues that come up in their ward. Some people spend them to put hanging baskets on Norfolk. Some people spend them to do certain things and fix some sidewalks that may not be on the list for the next 5 or 6 years. Some people spend them on different initiatives in their ward that they want to fund. But each councillor has the discretion under a set of rules to take their ward funds and to address issues or challenges or opportunities that they see in their ward. Ward funds are always given in equal distribution to every ward and to every ward councillor. And I would keep them.
Well, let me tell you something. You think $100,000 is a lot of money? If I was mayor of Windsor, I'd give them $1 million each. Why not? Let's do good for all 10 districts. $1 million will do a lot of work now. Thank you.
Anyone else on that? Thank you. I have a question here from the audience. Please stand.
So my name's Lisa Valenti. I have a teenage son. A high percentage of the murders in Windsor have been teenagers. I hear you talking about policing, downtown homelessness, drug crisis, but none of those crimes had anything to do with that. Young kids are killing kids, and when our kids are leaving the house, they all know each other. My heart stops every Friday night when they go out. Just in the past 3 weeks, we've lost 3 more teenagers. So I'm just wondering what your plan is for that. I just want to know if you've made that connection Has everybody made that connection that the murders have been teenagers, young kids, killing kids?
Yeah, thank you. Our campaign's had a lot of briefings on crime, violent crime especially. Some of it is gang-related, coming in from Toronto. We've requested, our campaign has been in touch with representatives of the government of Ontario. We've asked that they give, if elected, that we give a allocation, what's called the Provincial Weapons Unit. It's a provincial unit made up of different officers from around Ontario. We want that unit expanded and put in Windsor, because it would not be a burden on our police force. Maybe we hire 1 or 2 officers, but as officers from around Ontario come here, we are ground zero for smuggling. We're getting more violent, and we got to get this gun thing under control. And the best way to do that, at least in our opinion for now, is to get the Provincial Weapons Unit down here. Additional resources, more time, more energy spent on that, because the gun violence is happening. And we got to take that step to make it stop. Thank you.
So we have had the provincial unit down here. They undertook a project called Project Traveler, which many of you read about. And I recently released a policy platform that calls on enhancing the DIGS unit, Drugs, Guns, and Gangs, calling on the province to provide additional funding under the Policing Effectiveness and Modernization Grant called the PEM grant, asking for the federal government to provide additional resources for Border Patrol in the form of RCMP. But the one benefit, I guess, if it's a benefit, it's sometimes a burden. As mayor, you get regular daily briefings from the chief and from senior administration. And so I have more information than sometimes I want with respect to the challenges we see. But I can tell you that what I have seen with respect to the murders that you referenced relate to, in one way or another, drugs or gangs. And in many cases, obviously, a gun was involved, but there's a direct tie-in to that type of activity, which leads to, unfortunately, a homicide. And so having additional police officers on the street, beefing up our DIGS unit is really important. Calling on the province and feds to provide additional resources, I think, is really important. The Premier provided $25 million to Toronto to help them deal with what they're seeing in gang-related activity, which of course involves guns as well. And I've asked for additional funding, maybe not 25 million, but the appropriate amount to help support Windsor Police Services to beef up the units that deal with that.
Thank you. A question from the audience?
Thank you all for coming. I would like to address the right person, if it touches your heart. I have a son that was working, living in a motel, because there are no bachelor apartments. He's 47. We went for months looking for a place for him. He's in a motel on Howard Ave, paying $250 a week. $250 a week. Wait. The other people in the motel are on welfare, ODSB. There's only 4 in the whole motel that's working. That's working. And that shakes me, because I have paid taxes in Riverside for years. I'm probably maybe the 3rd oldest in this whole room. Why is the city of Windsor paying the motels on Howard Ave? I don't understand that. So whoever's heart it touches, please answer.
So I'm not sure, and you don't have to tell me what hotel or motel your son's living at, but I can tell you we do fund we have 3 motels that we use in the city of Windsor to provide services for women and families who are considered homeless. There is room at the Welcome Center shelter, but oftentimes that shelter is exhausted, and we have to put these folks up in a hotel. And so they stay. No, I understand. So they stay by and large at the hotel or the motel on Howard called iCheck-In. And we have a standing order for 10 rooms there every single night to house these families, and we spend $400,000 a year to put folks up in motels in the city of Windsor who would be otherwise homeless. And every year we do the analysis to see whether or not it's worth taking that $400,000 and making an investment to build our own space so we don't have to fund the motels. We haven't made that decision yet to make that investment, but that's what we have to do. So if your son is staying at I-Check-In, he would see those types of folks from our shelter system staying there. But with respect to folks who are on OW or ODSP, the city does not fund that type of shelter. So they'd be doing that on their own or whatever funds that they have.
Lady, are you, I didn't hear what you said. So basically what are you asking that the people that are living in these motels on Howard Avenue, who's paying the rent? So basically, is it the taxpayers of Windsor? And I really think it is. Well, you know something really? All these people that came in from Iraq and all these other countries that are coming into to our city, a lot of those people want to work, and there are a lot of those people that have been given jobs in Leamington. And I feel like if we went to those people right now and said, do you want to work in Leamington? They would work. So why don't we give them the opportunity to go to work in Leamington and let Transit Windsor and the City of Windsor work together to put them to work. And then they can move out off welfare rolls and benefits the city taxpayers pay.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Sorry, any other answers? No. There's a lot of questions that you have, and unfortunately, oh, sorry, did you want to make comment? Thank you. We have a lot of other questions from the audience, and unfortunately, our time is running out. If you give your questions to this lady with her hand up at the desk over there, she will ensure that they're posted on the website and invite everyone to answer them in writing. But for this evening, we've asked you to stay a long time, and now I'd like to ask everyone to give a 2-minute final statement. Tom first.
You know, this is your chance to really make a difference in your community. A lot of times we talk about low voter turnout and apathy in elections. I think we really had a good crowd here tonight, and you're very passionate about your city. On October 22nd, you really need to get out there, and you need to bring your neighbors with you, and you need to bring your kids if they're old enough to vote, and you need to start talking to everybody in your community and motivate them to go out there and cast a ballot regardless of who you support. This is important, it's our future, and our community and our city depends on it. And this is a great representation of how passionate our community really is when it comes to some of the issues that are on the table here. Let's make it happen and let's make it work, okay? Thanks.
I want to, first I want to thank my colleagues for being up here today and I also want to thank the organizers here tonight. They did a great job. So thank you, Tamara, for everything. Doing a great job as a moderator, not easy to do. So thank you. Give a round of applause for Tamara. So, what I heard tonight are a couple of key messages. First is about transparency and accountability. You've heard that tonight. That's very, very important. If given the privilege to serve, you're going to have transparency and accountability. You will have an Auditor General. We talked about priorities. We talked about the fact that we're always seem to be playing catch up. We're behind the curve on this. There's a problem there. It wasn't dealt with, so now we have to go back and do it. When you're the CEO, and I've been the CEO for 6 years, it's important to get in front of problems first, because it's cheaper to solve on the front end than it is to go back and fix it. You're measured on being proactive versus reactive. If you're reactive, you've missed it, and you have to go back and fix it, whether it's homeless, crime, flooded basements. It really boils down to the same thing. Are we being proactive? Is the status quo working? I say it's not. I say it's important for us to get aggressive, to fix our problems, transparency, accountability. Again, we've got the only plan for downtown 2022, and I want to thank everyone for coming here tonight. October 22nd, vote Marchand for mayor. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming. A vote for me will be a vote for clean Windsor, clean transit, clean taxis, clean commercial vehicles, hospitals downtown instead of out in the county, eliminate green bin, increase red and blue bin pickup. And so October 22nd, vote for me for a clean Windsor. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I think it's, regardless of who you support, it's important to have this dialogue and to hear different ideas and be able to ask questions. And I do appreciate the time that everyone's taken to be here. And I want to thank the organizers. Tamara, thank you, and the rest of the group for organizing this event, I guess, and again, this election round. Folks, this election really gives you a clear choice. Do you want to keep Windsor moving forward, or do you want to go back in time when things in this city weren't that good? Times of high debt, times of rising property taxes, times of little investment in our roads and sewers. And do not leave here today fooled with promises that cannot be kept. Do not be fooled by promises that cannot be kept. And believe me, if some of the things I've heard here tonight are going to be kept, those promises are going to be kept, open your wallets now and be prepared for the money to start flying out of your wallets. We can't afford to go back. We can't afford to go back. You know me, you know how I operate, and you know my record for the last 12 years. A record that is clear, a record that has decreased our debt, increased our reserves, invested record amounts in our roads and sewers, in our parks, in our playgrounds, in our transit, in our arenas, in our pools, in our libraries, and more, all while holding the line on taxes. 2.4% over 4 years, the lowest of any city in the province of Ontario. That is my record. And as we keep moving Windsor forward, I pledge to continue those record investments in our roads and sewers. I promise you that I will continue to deal with the issues we're seeing on the street and make sure that we have adequate public safety to keep all of us safe. I'm responsible with the tax dollars. We're going to continue to attract investment in jobs. Building permits are up 70%. Unemployment is down to 6.6%. Folks, our plan is working. We've got the plan. It's working. You've got the results. You've got the leadership right in front of you. Our plan is producing those results. And on October 22nd, I'd ask for your continued support to continue to be your mayor. Thank you very much for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like your support October 22nd for me to be the next mayor of Windsor. I'm going to make Windsor great again. I'm going to do things like Donald Trump. I'm going to take charge. I'm going to take charge of this city. I'm going to make sure people are working. I'm going to make sure that I replace Amazon with 50,000 jobs. I guarantee we're going to have a second casino in Windsor, paying dollars that they're making now at the casino. And maybe another $24 million a year that will go to mental health. Maybe it will go to long care home people that are talking tonight. This is what we need in Windsor. We need more positive. We need toll roads, so that takes care of the sewers and roads. And I really do feel that people of Windsor should give Ernie Lamont a chance. I feel that I've done more for the city of Windsor than anyone on this stage tonight with creating jobs for this city. Without the casino in Windsor, those big boats that pull in at Dia Park, they're not going down Olette Avenue. They're going to Caesars Windsor. So because of Ernie Lamont, the people of Windsor don't have to go over the river to see entertainment when they got it right at Caesars. So Ernie Lamont has done very good for this city of Windsor. Sure, people look at me, he's just a bacon man, goes around, sells his wares. But I love this city, and I care about this city, and I will make it the best mayor that Windsor's ever had. You've got to give me a chance. I have vision. I will create the jobs I said tonight. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. I have the website of that you can post your questions to. It's cfuwwindsor.ca. Please take advantage of that. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to the candidates. I'm inviting the candidates to stick around if you want to ask them further questions, and because we have the use of the room for a little bit longer. Thank you so much. Good night.